The big question, of course, now is whether U.S. lawmakers will do a deal in time to prevent a default. And in the past few minutes, it looks like even hopes of a proposal from the House have been dashed. CNBC's John Harwood has more on this story. John, what's the latest?
Well, the lights are back on in India, but will investor confidence be as easy to fix?
So let's talk about SR Energy. You listed in London about 2 years ago. Your shares are now worth about a third of the value of when you originally floated. Make the case for investors. Why should they buy your stock?
Hello there. Welcome back to Squawk Box. This is the lead that Asia is getting from Wall Street's Friday trade. It's really not good. The Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq were all underwater, although the sell-off wasn't too bad considering the payrolls report that we got on Friday, putting U.S. unemployment at a 26-year high. Good morning. Good to see you. Well, we've got another mixed day over here in Asia to fill you in on. And of course, the ISM's manufacturing index coming in quite a bit better than expected. Yes, a lot of competition between the U.S. automakers, the big three in Detroit, and the Japanese automakers, obviously, from those comments that we were getting from GM.
Even here in the slums of Dharavi, which are widely perceived as being one of the poorest places in the world, you can feel the buzz of commerce. Things are being made, sold, moved around. And the local shopkeepers here say if there's a broader slowdown in India, they're sure not feeling it.
So investors that once avoided Indonesia are now sitting up and taking a serious second look. The new president, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, is striking a different chord. He's being taken seriously, and his push for change appears to be gaining momentum. There is a growing opinion here in Indonesia, from the poorest of the poor living in rural areas to the upper echelons of government, that Indonesia is about to change. Lisa Oake, CNBC, Jakarta.
We are finding out that the U.S. House Rules Committee chairman is saying that the House will not hold any votes tonight, Tuesday evening, over in the U.S. on the latest Republican debt limit. We were hoping that perhaps there would be some sort of an offer from the House and then a vote late at night to go into the Senate, but it looks like that is not going to happen. So no progress as of yet on the debt limit debate in the United States. So all of the focus, of course, is on the U.S. today. We are less than 4 hours away from the default deadline. The Senate clearing the first hurdle, passing the procedural vote, 83-16. We are now waiting for them to start voting on the final passage. It could happen anytime. The magic number is 51 in the Senate. We need to get that in order for it to pass. And if the indication of 80 from the procedural vote is anything to go by, this is going to pass the Senate quite easily. We shall see what happens in the House of Representatives.
The president of Toyota, he will be there as well. So it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. And we're getting comments in from the central bank saying the rate decision still supportive for the economy. They're holding their benchmark rate over at Bank Indonesia at 6.5%, standing pat as expected.
Japan, by the way, is battening down the hatches. Typhoon Whipha bearing down on the capital, Tokyo. The storm is expected to make landfall during the morning rush hour and bring hurricane-force winds to the city. The Japanese Meteorological Agency has advised people to avoid unnecessary travel and to be on alert, calling the typhoon a once-in-a-decade event. Japan Airlines and ANA have canceled hundreds of flights to and from Tokyo, while bullet trains in the region have been temporarily suspended. After hitting Tokyo, the storm is expected to sweep through northern Japan near the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. The operator of the plant, TEPCO, says it is taking steps to shore up the facility.
Well, here's an update on the natural calamities that have been hitting Asia over the past week or so. Typhoon Parma hit the Philippines over the weekend, killing 17 people. The country's Weather Bureau says the storm will hover over the northwest of the country for about 2 more days, bringing more rain and possible landslides. Of course, this comes just 1 week after the devastation caused by Typhoon Ketsana, which killed about 300 people and forced 500,000 people from their homes. Get a board up for the Forex majors at the moment and see how the dollar is faring after that better than expected U.S. data out last night. New home sales, durable goods orders, really putting in much better than expected numbers. The dollar right now down against the Japanese yen, 0.3%, losing some steam there. And the euro right now against the dollar is lower by 0.1%.
Spend some time in India and you will hear the same message again and again.
The Indian economy has very strong fundamentals.
The Indian economy is largely a domestic consumption economy.
There is some kind of an internal momentum in the economy, which doesn't let it go down the drain very dramatically.
They say sure there are issues, but long term, they feel India is a safe bet because of domestic consumption. Over 1.2 billion people who buy things that are, for the most part, produced in India. That acts as a buffer against downturns in other parts of the world. But it's easy to say things are okay if you're sitting at the top or you're trying to lure in a foreign investor or two. We decided to put that theory to the test. We decided to ask this guy. Mohammed Wasim owns a textile shop in one of the poorest areas of Mumbai. He makes T-shirts and has just one source of revenue, the local economy. If there are any cracks in the domestic consumption story, surely they would show up here. Wasim says business is booming.
In India, there are so many communities that live together, and each one has a different festival at a different time, and they come one after the other, and that's why business is good.
Even here in the slums of Dharavi, which are widely perceived as being one of the poorest places in the world, you can feel the buzz of commerce. Things are being made, sold, moved around. And the local shopkeepers here say if there's a broader slowdown in India, they're sure not feeling it.
Business is in fact booming on the ground.
Deepa Krishnan is a former international banker turned Mumbai tour guide. No stranger to assessing economic cues, she now takes tourists through Dharavi and educates them about the area.
Yes, right now these businesses are going strong. Nobody's talking of any recession, nobody's talking of any downturn.
In fact, Dharavi is thriving. The children look cared for and happy, and amazingly, the slum's so-called informal economy churns out an estimated $1 billion a year, all of it from small businesses, all of them booming by serving the local market. So for investors considering India, it all comes down to timing. Short term, it's anyone's guess when government policy and GDP will turn around. But long term, it's clear that India's biggest advantages, its consumers and entrepreneurial spirit, are woven into the fabric of the country.
But I don't know. I can't predict. It's in God's hands, but I'm going to do my best.
Lisa Oake, CNBC, Mumbai.
Welcome back. Tuesday here on Oake Asia. India made international headlines last month when it suffered the world's worst power outage, leaving almost 700 million people in darkness. That's roughly about half the country and putting the country's rickety infrastructure in the spotlight. Subir Gokarn, Deputy Governor of the RBI, breaks it down and tells Lisa Oake how the central bank is viewing the recent power failure.
I would say the equivalent of a natural disaster of some kind, fortunately without perhaps the same human consequences that a storm or a hurricane or cyclone, as we call them, would have, or an earthquake.
What's your view on the rupee? It's been the worst performing currency in Asia so far this year. Do you have any plans to support it?
The fact that we saw the rupee depreciate really reflects the fact that capital stopped flowing in across the board, across all countries, with the global markets taking a sort of risk-off position.
Are you surprised at how persistent the downward pressure on the currency has been, despite the measures that you keep rolling out to try to support it? It seems to keep weakening.
The range of movement that we've seen in the last maybe month or month and a half has certainly been much narrower than we saw before that.
So India's been under pressure from the ratings agencies. S&P says could be the first brick to actually lose its investment grade status. Does that, from a central bank perspective, from where you sit, does that put pressure on you to maybe lean a bit more toward cutting rates?
The rating methodology would put a lot of weight does put a lot of weight on the fiscal condition.
So do the breakdown for us. How much of the slowdown within India has been caused by external factors, and how much of it is because of domestic policy issues?
When the world economy was growing at 3% or 3.5% or 4% in the pre-crisis years, Indian growth was close to 9%. Global growth is now much less, and we've obviously seen adjustments. So some of it is there. But we've been focused on trying to isolate the impact of interest rate hikes from other factors, domestic and global,